Thomas Walker tends to his modest riverside farm, the same way he has every morning since losing his beloved wife. The river that took her still flows past his land, carrying memories he can't forget. His daily routine of working near the water is his way of staying close to her. A desperate cry pierces the morning calm. Downstream, a young woman struggles against the current. Something glints at her throat, a familiar rose gold necklace that disappeared with his wife years ago. Without hesitation, Thomas rushes toward the river, knowing this moment will change everything. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The icy water hits Thomas like 1,000 needles, but he barely feels it. His focus narrows to the thrashing figure ahead, her dark hair whipping across the surface, like Sarah's did that day. Not again. Not this time. The current fights him. As he pushes forward, each stroke a battle against nature itself. The woman's movements are growing weaker, her struggle diminishing. Thomas's muscles burn, but memory drives him harder than physics. He reaches her just as she slips under, his fingers catching the gold chain at her throat. Together they break the surface, the woman limp in his arms. Thomas kicks hard, angling them toward the shore where the river bends, creating a natural eddy. His boots find purchase on the muddy bottom, and he half drags, half carries her onto the bank. She's young, maybe 30, with features that stir something in his memory. The necklace, Sarah's necklace, glints against her pale throat. Thomas pushes the mystery aside and checks her breathing. Nothing. Starting chest compressions, he falls. Into the rhythm the paramedics taught him too late to save Sarah. "Come on," he mutters. "Not today." Water trickles from the woman's mouth. Suddenly, she convulses, coughing up river water. Thomas rolls her onto her side, relief flooding through him. Her eyes flutter open, revealing a striking shade of green, just like Sarah's. "You're safe," he says, his voice rough. "I've got you." She tries to speak, but manages only a weak cough. Thomas shrugs off his coat, wrapping it around her shoulders. The farm deed in his pocket crinkles, reminding him of the bank meeting he's missing. Another notice of potential foreclosure he'll have to explain away. "My house is just up the hill," he says. "Can you stand?" She nods uncertainly. Thomas helps her up, supporting most of her weight. As they make their slow way toward the farmhouse, he can't shake the feeling that the universe is playing some cruel joke. The necklace, those eyes, it's too much coincidence. The old house comes into view, its weathered siding and sagging porch, a testament to better days. Thomas guides her up the steps, memories of carrying Sarah across this same threshold on their wedding day flickering through his mind. Inside, he settles her on the couch with blankets and starts a fire in the hearth. The woman watches him with those unsettling green eyes, clutching the necklace at her throat. "I'm Thomas," he says, heading to the kitchen to make tea. "Thomas." "Walker." "Claire," she manages between coughs. "Claire Bennett." The name hits him like another plunge into the river. Even here, in his modest farmhouse, everyone knows of Claire Bennett, the tech billionaire who transformed social media with her privacy-first platform. Her face has been all over the news for years. "The necklace," he says, returning with 2 mugs of tea. "Where did you get it?" Claire's hand goes to her throat, fingers tracing the delicate rose gold chain. "It was my mother's," she whispers. "My birth mother's, the only thing I have of hers." Thomas sinks into his armchair, the weight of impossible coincidence pressing down on him. "That's not possible," he says quietly. "That necklace belonged to my wife, Sarah. She was wearing it when she drowned in that same river 5 years ago." Claire's eyes widen, and for a moment the only sound is the crackling fire. Outside, the river continues its eternal flow, carrying with it secrets that suddenly seem ready to surface. "I need to make a call," Claire says, reaching for her phone, only to find her pockets empty. Her expression shifts from confusion to understanding. "It must have fallen in the river." "What were you doing out there anyway?" Thomas asks, the question that's been nagging at him finally surfacing. Claire's face clouds. "Running," she says after a pause. Someone's been trying to force a hostile takeover of my company. This morning, I received proof that they're willing to go beyond legal means. She pulls the blanket tighter. I needed to clear my head, went for a walk by the river. I must have slipped. But Thomas recognizes the look in her eyes. He's seen it in the mirror every day since Sarah died. It's the look of someone holding back the truth, protecting a secret that burns to be told. A knock at the door startles them both. Through the window, Thomas spots Deputy Mark Stevens's patrol car in the driveway. The young officer has been keeping an eye on the farm since Sarah's death, though Thomas suspects it has more to do with the bank's interests than concern for his welfare. The necklace glints in the firelight, a golden thread connecting past and present, secrets and lies, death and rescue. Whatever brought Claire Bennett to his river this morning, Thomas knows with bone-deep certainty that nothing in his life will ever be the same. Deputy Stevens removes his hat as he enters, rainwater dripping from his uniform. His eyes dart between Thomas and Claire, professional concern masking something harder beneath. "Got a call about a disturbance by the river," he says, hand resting casually on his belt. "Everything all right here, Mr. Walker?" Thomas notices how Claire straightens, her tech CEO persona sliding into place despite the wet clothes and borrowed blankets. "I had an accident," she says smoothly. "Mr. Walker saved my life." Stephen's eyebrows rise as he recognizes her. Ms. Bennett, the Claire Bennett, the same. She manages a smile that doesn't reach her eyes, though I'd appreciate discretion about my presence here. Thomas moves to his shelf, pulling down a yellowed newspaper. The headline screams across 5 years of dust. "Local woman drowns in river tragedy." Sarah's photo smiles beneath it, the same necklace gleaming at her throat. "Deputy," Thomas says quietly, "could you give us a moment?" Stevens hesitates, then nods. "I'll check back later." "Ms. Bennett, do you need medical attention?" "No, thank you. I'm fine." The door closes behind him, and Claire's composure cracks slightly. She pulls the newspaper closer, studying Sarah's photo. "She was beautiful," she whispers. "The necklace was a family heirloom," Thomas says. "Her grandmother's, then her mother's, then hers. I searched the river for weeks after—" He swallows hard. "How did you get it?" Claire's fingers trace the rose gold pattern. "It was in a safety deposit box, with my adoption papers." She looks up, meeting his gaze. "I only opened it last month after my adoptive mother passed." Thunder rumbles outside, and the old farmhouse creaks. Thomas sinks back into his chair, memories flooding in. Sarah, standing in this same room, trying to tell him something important that last morning. Something about her past, about choices made before they met. He'd been too busy, too focused on saving the farm. Now, looking at Claire's familiar green eyes, pieces start shifting into place. "Sarah never mentioned—" he starts. But Claire cuts him off. "I was born in 1993 at St. Mary's Hospital." Her voice is steady, but her hands tremble. "My birth mother was 18. She left only 2 things. A letter saying she wanted me to have a better life than she could provide. And this necklace." Thomas does the math. Sarah would have been 18 in 1993, the year before he met her. She'd never talked much about her life before moving to the farm, except she volunteered at St. Mary's, he says softly. "That's where we met. She was working in the children's ward, and I was delivering fresh produce from the farm." Claire pulls something from her pocket, a folded, water-damaged photograph. A young woman in a hospital volunteer's uniform holds a baby, her green eyes bright with tears and something like hope. Even without the necklace, Thomas would know that face anywhere. "I found this with the adoption papers," Claire says. "I've been trying to track her down, but all records led to dead ends. Until this morning, when my AI facial recognition program finally found a match in your wife's obituary." The truth settles over them like the gathering storm outside. Sarah's secret daughter, grown into the woman who would revolutionize digital privacy, the necklace that connected them across decades. And now, the river that took one and spared the other. "There's more," Claire says, her voice dropping. The people. Trying to take over my company. They knew about Sarah, about me. Someone sent me files proving they were involved in her death. Lightning flashes, illuminating the fear in Claire's eyes. Thomas thinks of Deputy Stevens's too casual stance, the bank's sudden pressure to sell the farm, Sarah's strange behavior. That last morning, "Tell me everything," he says as the storm breaks over the farmhouse. Outside, the river rises with the rain, its waters dark with secrets finally ready to surface. The storm rages through the afternoon, trapping them in the farmhouse with their newfound truths. Thomas makes another pot of tea, his hand steady despite the earthquakes in his heart. Claire sits at the kitchen table, Sarah's old diary open. Before her, "I found it the day after," Thomas explains, setting down her cup. "Never could bring myself to read it. Felt too much like prying." Claire's fingers hover over the pages, hesitant. "May I?" He nods, watching as she carefully opens. To the last entry. Sarah's flowing handwriting fills the page, dated the morning she died. "The truth always finds its way to the surface," Claire reads aloud. "Like a river, it cannot be contained forever. T wouldn't understand why I kept this secret, but maybe someday." She looks up. It stops there. Thomas's phone buzzes. A text from Deputy Stevens. "Bank meeting rescheduled for tomorrow." "Don't miss this one. They're connected, aren't they?" Claire says quietly. "The bank, my company's hostile takeover, Sarah's death. They're all pieces of the same puzzle." "Maybe." Thomas moves to the window, watching lightning split the sky. "Sarah was working on something those last few months, spent hours at her computer, said it was just hospital volunteer work, but she was distant, distracted, started taking different routes to familiar places." He turns, surprised. "How did you know?" "Because I've been doing the same things." Claire pulls out her phone, scrolling through encrypted messages. "My company's new privacy algorithm? It's based on principles I've worked with my whole life, ideas that felt natural, inherited almost. When I traced them back, they led to theoretical work done in the early 90s by a researcher who disappeared." She pauses. "A researcher named Sarah Chen." The name hits Thomas like a physical blow. Sarah's a maiden name, but she never mentioned. "She was brilliant," Claire continues. "Created the foundation for what would become the most secure encryption protocol ever developed. Then she vanished, resurfaced here as Sarah Walker." She meets Thomas's eyes. "My birth mother wasn't just giving me up for adoption. She was hiding me from someone." A floorboard creaks upstairs. The old house settling or something else. Thomas moves instinctively between Claire and the door. "The algorithm you developed," he says quietly. "How much is it worth?" "Billions, maybe more. It makes current." "Privacy protocols obsolete," she laughs softly. "Funny thing is, coding it felt like remembering rather than creating, like somewhere in my DNA. Sarah passed it to you," Thomas finishes, "along with her eyes, her necklace, her secrets." Another creak, definitely footsteps this time. Claire's phone buzzes with an incoming message. "Found you." Thomas reaches for the drawer where he keeps his old hunting rifle, but Claire grabs his arm. "Wait," she whispers. "I have a better idea." She pulls out a small device, taps quickly. On its screen, suddenly every electronic device in the house, phones, computers, even the old digital clock, goes dark. "What did you do?" "Mom's protocol," Claire says, a fierce smile playing at her lips. "If she couldn't finish her work, she made damn sure I could. Whoever's up there just lost all their tech advantages." Thunder crashes overhead as footsteps descend the stairs. Thomas feels the weight of Sarah's presence, her brilliance living on in their daughter, her secrets finally surfacing like truth from the depths of that hungry river. "Ready?" Claire whispers, Sarah's necklace gleaming in the lightning flashes. Thomas nods, understanding now why Sarah chose this farm, this river, this life. Some things are worth protecting, worth dying for, worth living for too. The footsteps reach the bottom of the stairs and the storm rages on. The kitchen door swings open. In the strobing lightning, Deputy Stevens stands with his hand on his holster, another figure looming behind him. "Evening, folks," Stevens says, too casual. "Hope you don't mind us dropping by. Ms. Bennett has some visitors." The man behind him steps forward, tall, elegant, in an expensive suit despite the storm. "Claire," he says warmly, "you've led us on quite a chase." Marcus. Claire's voice is ice. "I should have known you'd find a way to slither in." Thomas watches the exchange, noting how Claire positions herself near the counter where Sarah's diary lies. Marcus, the name clicks. Marcus Chen, no relation but CEO of Rivertech, the company trying to absorb Claire's empire. "We're only here to help," Marcus says. "A woman in your position, overwhelmed with responsibility. It's perfectly understandable to have a breakdown. Is that what you told Sarah?" Claire's words crack like lightning. "Before you arranged her accident?" Stevens shifts uncomfortably, but Marcus merely smiles. "Sarah Chen was a troubled woman who made unfortunate choices. I'd hate to see her daughter follow the same path." Thomas feels rage rise in his throat, but Claire's hand finds his arm, steadying him. Her fingers tap a pattern against his skin. Morse code, just like Sarah used to use. "Wait, what do you want, Marcus?" Claire demands. "The same thing I wanted. From your mother. The algorithm. The original one." He gestures to Stevens. "Search the house. You won't find it," Claire says. "Mum destroyed it." Marcus laughs softly. "No, she encoded it. In something she'd know would reach you eventually." His eyes fix on the necklace. Something that would seem innocent to anyone else. Thomas remembers Sarah's obsession with that necklace, how she would trace its patterns late at night. Not just patterns, code. The realization hits him. She'd hidden her life's work in plain sight, knowing someday her daughter would understand. Claire's fingers keep tapping. Upstairs. "Hidden panel? Green box. The algorithm was never about privacy, was it?" Claire says, drawing Marcus's attention. "It was about control. Back doors into every system, every device." "Your mother was naive," Marcus spits. "Thought encryption should protect people. From their own governments, from corporations who know what's best for them." He steps forward. "But you're smarter than that, aren't you, Claire? You understand the real value of control." Thomas edges toward the stairs, using their conversation as cover. Stevens notices, raises his gun. "Stay where you are, old man." "Deputy," Thomas says. Quietly, "You should know, Sarah kept records of everyone involved, insurance, she called it." Stevens's aim wavers. Outside, thunder crashes like judgment. "Enough!" Marcus snaps. "The necklace now!" Claire's hand goes to her throat, then stops. Her eyes widen, staring past them toward the window. Everyone turns. There, in the rain-streaked glass, a face appears. A woman's face, green eyes bright with reflected lightning. Sarah's face. Stevens stumbles back with a cry. Marcus whirls, and Claire moves. Her hand sweeps the counter, sending Sarah's diary flying at Stevens. Thomas lunges, tackling the deputy as his gun discharges into the ceiling. The window image vanishes, just a trick of the storm and memory. But its distraction is enough. Claire vaults the counter, her mother's grace in every movement. Her phone device pulses, and suddenly the house's ancient wiring surges. Sparks shower from every outlet as decades of Sarah's careful preparations activate. Marcus reaches for her, but Thomas is there, years of farm work behind his fist as it connects with the younger man's jaw. Stevens scrambles for his dropped gun, but Claire's foot pins his hand. "Sarah's insurance policy," she says, holding up her phone. "Everything, every email, every transaction, every dirty little secret. Set to release if anything happens to me." She smiles. Sarah's smile, fierce and bright. "Mom did destroy the original algorithm, but she made sure I'd have what I needed to create something better, something you can never control." Sirens wail in the distance. Real police this time. Marcus's face twists with rage, but he steps back, straightening his suit. "This isn't over," he says. "No," Claire agrees, "but Mom's truth is finally surfacing. And you're the one who should be afraid of drowning. Thomas moves to the window as Marcus and Stevens retreat into the storm. The river rages below, but for the first time in 5 years, its waters don't look hungry. They look like justice, patient but unstoppable. Claire joins him, Sarah's necklace gleaming. "There's more," she says softly. "So much more to uncover." Thomas nods, feeling Sarah's presence in every shadow, every hidden panel, every line of code, woven through their lives. "Then let's uncover it together." Outside, the storm begins to ease, but its work is done. The truth has broken free, rising like a river in flood, carrying away the barriers of secrets long held. Dawn breaks over the farm, painting the storm's aftermath in shades of gold. Claire sits cross-legged on the floor of Sarah's old office, surrounded by papers from the green box Thomas retrieved from the hidden panel. Her laptop hums beside her, running decryption algorithms on files that seem to span decades. "She documented everything," Claire murmurs, passing Thomas a stack of photos. "Every meeting, every threat, every connection to Rivertech." Thomas studies the images. Marcus Chen, 20 years younger, standing with a group of men in military uniforms. Sarah's neat handwriting on the back, "Project Rivergate, first phase." "Your mother," he says carefully. "She wasn't just a programmer, was she?" Claire shakes her head, her fingers flying over the keyboard. "She was a whistleblower, found out the government was using her encryption work to build back doors into civilian systems. When she threatened to expose them," she swallows hard, "that's when she ran, when she had to give me up." Thomas remembers Sarah's nightmares, how she'd wake gasping about drowning, not in the river that would eventually take her, but in secrets too deep to surface alone. His phone buzzes, another bank notice. This one's different. "Final warning, foreclosure proceedings initiated." "They're moving fast," Claire says, reading over his shoulder, "trying to pressure us from all sides." She pulls up financial records on her laptop. "The bank, the ones threatening your farm, wholly owned subsidiary of Rivertech Holdings." A truck rumbles up the driveway. Earl Mackenzie's ancient Ford. The old farmer has worked the neighboring land since before Thomas was born. He steps out looking grim, clutching a letter. "Tom, you got one of these too?" Through the window, Thomas sees other trucks arriving. More farmers, more letters. Claire's encryption program pings. Another file decrypted. "Mom knew this would happen," she says softly. "Look." The document displays a complex web of land purchases, shell companies, all leading back to Rivertech. Sarah had marked the pattern. A perfect circle of properties around the farm, around the river where she died. They're not just after the algorithm, Thomas realizes. There's something here they want, something Sarah found. Earl knocks on the door, and Thomas lets him in. The old farmer's eyes widen at the sight of Claire. "Well, I'll be damned," Earl whispers. "You've got her eyes, girl. Sarah's eyes." More trucks arrive, more farmers gathering. Claire stands, Sarah's necklace catching the morning light. "Your mother," Earl continues, "she used to ask questions about the river, about the old stories, about why no development company could ever break ground within a mile of the water without their equipment failing." Thomas remembers Sarah's late-night research, her long walks by the river. "What did she find, Earl?" "Nothing we could prove, but..." He pulls out an old survey map. "And there's a reason this land's been in our families for generations, a reason some things need protecting." Claire's laptop chimes again. This time, the decrypted file makes her gasp. "Underground servers," she breathes. "Massive ones, built before the internet existed. Cold War technology, drawing power from the river itself." She looks up at Thomas. "Mom didn't hide her algorithm in the necklace. She hid it here in the land itself, in systems so old, so deep, they're invisible to modern technology." Outside, more trucks arrive. The farming community gathering like storm clouds on the horizon. Thomas sees it now, the pattern Sarah recognized. Not just land and algorithms, but people, communities. Secrets kept not through encryption, but through generations of shared understanding. "They'll be coming," Claire says, her mother's determination in her voice. Not just Marcus, everyone who thought they'd buried these secrets for good. Thomas looks at the gathered farmers, at Sarah's daughter, at the river flowing eternal beyond. Them all. Let them come, he says quietly. Some things are worth defending. Earl nods, and in his weathered face, Thomas sees the strength of roots that go deeper than any corporate foundation. The strength Sarah saw and trusted with her greatest secrets. The morning sun catches Sarah's necklace as Claire stands to address the gathering crowd. In its light, Thomas sees not just code and algorithms, but a legacy of protection, of community, of truths worth preserving. The river flows on, its ancient servers humming beneath, waiting to reveal their secrets to the daughter who finally came home. Evening settles over the farm like a worn quilt, familiar and comforting despite the day's revelations. Claire stands at the kitchen counter, chopping vegetables with Sarah's old knife, her movements unconsciously mirroring her mother's habits. Thomas watches from the doorway, his heart aching with déjà vu. "You don't have to cook," he says softly. "I want to." She smiles, Sarah's smile. "Besides, I found her recipe box." Did she really make this vegetable soup every Sunday? Without fail. Thomas moves to the stove, stirring the broth. "Said it was her grandmother's recipe, but I think she improvised half of it. Like her code," Claire muses. "Traditional patterns, hiding modern innovations." She slides the chopped carrots into the pot, then pauses. "I keep doing things without thinking, things I shouldn't know how to do. It's like muscle memory I never earned." Thomas nods. He's noticed it all day, the way she automatically steps over the creaky third stair, how she found Sarah's hidden spare key without being told, her fingers tapping the same rhythms Sarah used to drum when thinking. "Your mother believed in genetic memory," he says, "that some things pass down through more than just teaching." Outside, Earl's truck pulls up. He's been organizing the other farmers, sharing Sarah's evidence, building their defense. But there's something else in his expression tonight as he trudges up to the porch. "Town's talking," he says when Thomas lets him in, "about Claire staying here, about possibilities." Thomas feels Claire stiffen beside him. He knows what Earl means, what the gossips are implying about a younger woman living with a widower. "Let them talk," Claire says firmly. "Family is more than their narrow definitions." The word family hangs in the air, delicate and powerful. Earl nods, understanding passing between them like a current. "Sarah would be proud," he says simply, then turns to business. "Anderson's farm got another offer today. Triple market value. They're trying to break the circle," Claire murmurs. "If even one farm sells, we won't let that happen." Thomas's voice is steel. He's lost one family to that river's secrets. He won't lose another. After Earl leaves, they sit on the porch, watching fireflies dance above the fields. The soup simmers inside, filling the air with memories. "I always wondered," Claire says quietly, "if she ever regretted it, giving me up, building a new life." Thomas remembers Sarah's quiet days, her eyes distant as she watched children play in the hospital ward where she volunteered. She regretted the necessity, he says, never the love that made the choice. Claire leans against the porch rail, Sarah's necklace glinting. "When I built my company, my encryption systems, everyone called me a prodigy. But I was just following blueprints, written in my bones." She turns to Thomas. "Do you think she knew that I'd find my way back here?" "Sarah never did anything without purpose." He joins her at the rail, even her goodbye. The moment stretches between them, comfortable despite its weight. They're not what the gossips imagine, not some May-December romance. They're something rarer, a family built from loss and redemption, from secrets turned to bonds. Inside, the soup begins to boil. Claire moves to tend it, her steps sure in the darkening kitchen. Thomas watches her slice bread the way Sarah did, arrange bowls in the same pattern, and feels his grief transforming into something new, not replaced, but expanded, like a river finding new channels while honoring its original course. Dad, Claire says softly, testing the word. I think the soup's ready. Thomas feels tears prick his eyes, but his voice is steady. Coming, daughter. Behind them the river whispers its eternal song, witness to love's endless capacity to evolve, to heal, to find its way home. The threatening letters arrive at dawn, slipped under the farmhouse door while they slept. Each envelope contains a single photograph. Sarah on her last day, caught by surveillance cameras they never knew existed. She's at the river's edge, looking over her shoulder, fear clear in her stance. They're not even trying to be subtle anymore, Claire says, laying the photos across the kitchen table. Each image is time-stamped, creating a timeline of Sarah's final hours. Thomas can barely look at them. Why now? Why show us this? Because of what's in the background. Claire points to a blurry shape behind Sarah. That's a server bank, one of the old ones exposed by the low river levels that summer. A heavy knock at the door makes them both jump. But it's only Linda Chen, no relation to Marcus, the local librarian who'd been Sarah's closest friend. I saw them, she says without preamble. Marcus's men asking questions at the library about Sarah's research habits, her computer usage. She sets down a stack of papers. I kept everything, every interlibrary loan request, every database search. Thomas remembers Sarah's long hours at the library, claiming she was researching hospital procedures. The papers tell a different story. Quantum computing, Cold War server architecture, underground power grids. She found something in the historical records, Linda continues. Something about why this land was really set aside by the government. In the 1950s, Claire's laptop pings, another of Sarah's encrypted files unlocked. This one contains old military maps showing a vast underground complex beneath the river valley. Project Rivergate, Claire reads, a quantum computing facility, powered by hydroelectric energy, built to be invisible to satellite imaging. She looks up. The world's first unhackable data storage system, hidden in plain sight. And your mother found a way in, Linda says softly. That's what they couldn't allow. Thomas moves to the window, watching rain clouds gather, the same kind of clouds that loomed the day Sarah died. She wasn't just at the river by chance that day, was she? No, Claire confirms, studying the surveillance photos. She was uploading something to those servers, something that could expose everything. Her fingers trace the necklace. The algorithm she gave me. It's not just for encryption. It's a key. Another knock, harder this time. Through the window, Thomas sees Marcus Chen's sleek car pulling up, flanked by dark SUVs. Linda, he says urgently, is there another copy of those records? She nods. Safety deposit box. And I finally remember what Sarah told me that last day. She said if anything happened to her, I should let the river rise. Claire's eyes widen. The dam controls, Mom's code. It wasn't just hiding in the servers, it was controlling them. Thunder rumbles as Marcus pounds on the door. Claire quickly transfers files to a secure drive, her fingers flying over the keyboard. Dad, she says, the word still new but sure. We need to get to the dam. Now. Thomas grabs Sarah's old rain jacket from its hook and feels something hard in the pocket. A key. One he's never seen before, with coordinates etched into its surface. Linda reads the numbers and gasps. The old maintenance tunnel. It leads straight to the dam's control room. The pounding at the door becomes a crack of splintering wood. Claire shoves the drive into her pocket, grabbing Sarah's diary with her other hand. There's a storm coming, she says, her green eyes fierce with inherited purpose. Let's make sure it washes away all their secrets. They slip out the back door as the front crashes in, running toward Linda's car through the first heavy drops of rain. Thomas looks back once at the farmhouse, at the men swarming in with their dark suits and darker intentions. Marcus appears on the porch, his face twisted with rage as he spots them. The servers, he shouts to his men. Get to the servers. But Thomas knows these roads, this rain, this land that Sarah loved enough to die protecting. Linda's car fishtails onto the muddy back road as the storm breaks overhead. Claire clutches Sarah's diary, the necklace, the key, 3 generations of secrets finally ready to surface. Thomas grips the dashboard as Linda takes another turn at full speed, the river a dark ribbon through the rain on their right. Behind them, headlights appear in the mirror. Above them, the storm grows stronger, and ahead, the dam rises like destiny against the thundering sky. The maintenance tunnel's entrance is nearly invisible, hidden behind decades of deliberate neglect. Linda's hands shake as she helps Thomas with the key, rain running in rivers down their faces. The coordinates lead to a rusty door that looks like it hasn't been opened since the Cold War. Sarah used to disappear for hours, Linda says, watching Claire check her phone's signal. Said she was walking by the river, but she was coming here, wasn't she? The key turns with a grinding sound that sets their teeth on edge. Inside, emergency lights still glow dimly, powered by the river's endless flow. Mom's last diary entry, Claire says, shining her phone's light on the worn pages. She knew they were coming for her. This was her backup plan. Their footsteps echo on metal grating as they descend. Behind them, distant shouts carry through the storm. Marcus's men following the same coordinates. Here, Thomas stops at a junction, recognition hitting him. I've seen this before, in Sarah's sketches. He'd always thought they were abstract art, the strange diagrams she'd draw while lost in thought. Claire connects her laptop to an ancient terminal, her mother's code flowing through her fingers. The servers are failing, she says. Water levels are too high. They're going to flood. That's what she wanted. Linda's voice is fierce. Let the river rise, remember. Footsteps clang on metal above them. Claire works faster, but Thomas sees the fear in her eyes, Sarah's eyes, wide with the same desperate determination he'd seen that last morning. It's not just data down here, he realizes. Sarah found proof, real physical proof of what they did. Of everything, Claire confirms. Government backdoors, corporate espionage, decades of surveillance. Mom didn't just find it, she added to it. Built her own case file inside their secret servers. A gunshot rings out, the sound deafening in the enclosed space. Linda pulls them into a side tunnel as flashlight beams cut through the darkness above. Claire, Marcus's voice echoes. You're making the same mistake your mother did. Some secrets need to stay buried. Claire's fingers never stop typing. The data's corrupted, she whispers. Water damage from years of seepage. I can't. She stops, staring at the necklace. No, she wouldn't hide it in code. That's what they'd expect. She pulls off the necklace, examining its surface under her phone's light. Thomas sees it now. Microscopic scratches that form a pattern. Not code, but a map. The control room, Claire breathes. It's not where the plans show. Mum found the real one. Another shot. Closer. Linda peers around the corner. They're splitting up, searching the tunnels. Go, Thomas says. Take the necklace, find the room, I'll lead them away. Dad, no. Sarah died protecting these secrets. His voice breaks. Protecting you, I won't lose you too. Claire grabs his hand. You're not losing anyone. Mom didn't just leave us. Proof, she left us a way out. She turns to Linda. The library records. What else did she access that last week? Historical engineering schematics. Old newspaper articles about cave systems. Natural caves, Thomas says. Under the farm, the river's been carving them for centuries. Claire nods. That's our escape route. But first, she types a final command. Somewhere deep below, machinery groans to life. Warning! An automated voice echoes. Emergency overflow activated. All personnel evacuate immediately. She built this trigger into the system, Claire says. Pride mixing with tears. Dead man's switch. If the servers detect tampering, they flood themselves. Thomas finishes, protecting the evidence until someone who knows where to look comes. To find it, Claire squeezes his hand. Someone with Sarah's eyes, her necklace, and her determination. Water begins to seep through the grating beneath their feet. Above, Marcus screams orders to his men. The cave's exit near the farm, Thomas says. But they'll be watching for us there. Linda smiles grimly. Good thing the whole town's involved now. She pulls out her phone, its screen showing a group chat with dozens of farmers' names. Earl's got everyone ready, just waiting for the signal. Claire leads them deeper into the tunnels, following the map hidden in her mother's necklace. The water rises steadily behind them, erasing their footprints, protecting their path. "Mom knew," she says softly. "Knew I'd come home, knew I'd find you, knew we'd finish what she started." Thomas thinks of Sarah's last morning, how she'd hugged him longer than usual. Not goodbye, he realizes now, just until the truth could rise to the surface. Behind them, Marcus's shouts turn to curses as the water rises faster. Ahead, the tunnel slopes upward toward the cave system and whatever fate awaits them in the storm above. The river rises, carrying secrets and justice in its unstoppable flow. The cave opening emerges behind the old Anderson barn, half a mile from Thomas's farm. Rain pounds the landscape into a blur of grey shapes as they pull themselves out of the earth. Linda's phone buzzes with updates from the farmers' group chat. "They've got the roads covered," she says. "Earl's people at every intersection. Marcus's men won't get through without a fight." Thunder cracks overhead as Claire checks her laptop, protected in its waterproof case. The servers are completely submerged, but the data's safe, transmitting to secure locations across the country. "Your mother's insurance policy," Thomas says, remembering Sarah's words about truth being like water, impossible to contain forever. Headlights sweep the area as vehicles converge on the farm. But these aren't Marcus's sleek SUVs. These are farm trucks, tractors, decades-old pickups that know every back road and cattle trail in the county. "Look," Linda points toward the river. Dark shapes move through the storm. Marcus's men, forced out of the flooding tunnels, now caught between the rising water and the wall of determined farmers. Claire's phone chirps. "My board of directors," she says, reading quickly. "Marcus's trades just went public. His whole house of cards is collapsing." "Claire!" Marcus's voice carries through the rain. He stands at the edge of the river, suit ruined, gun glinting in the lightning flashes. "You think this changes anything? Your mother thought the same thing." Thomas steps forward, but Claire catches his arm. "Wait," she says. "Watch." The river, swollen with stormwater and the flooding tunnels, surges upward. Marcus stumbles back as the bank crumbles beneath his feet. In the water's dark surface, something metallic breaks through, a server bank, decades old, finally revealing its secrets to the light. 5 years, Claire calls out. Mom knew it would take 5 years of steady erosion before the evidence surfaced naturally. The flood just accelerated her timeline. Marcus raises his gun, but farm trucks converge from all directions, their headlights blinding him. Earl steps out of his pickup, shotgun resting casually against his shoulder. "This ain't your territory anymore," the old farmer says simply. Deputy Stevens appears from the shadows, but he's not aiming at Claire. His gun trains on Marcus. "Got an interesting call from the FBI," he says. "Seems Sarah Walker's dead man's switch didn't just trigger the flood. It triggered a whole lot of investigations." Claire's laptop pings one final time. "Transfer complete," she says. "Every server's contents, every piece of evidence Mum collected, it's all public now." Marcus lunges for her, desperation overriding sense. Thomas moves without thinking, decades of farm work behind his fist as it connects with the younger man's jaw. Marcus goes down hard in the mud. "That's for Sarah," Thomas says quietly. Lightning illuminates the scene. Marcus's men surrendering to local police, farmers securing the perimeter, and the river offering up its long-held secrets. The server bank gleams like a memorial breaking through the surface. Linda hugs them both, then heads to her car. "I'll get the library records to the FBI. They'll want to see Sarah's research trail." Claire stares at the river, her mother's necklace glinting. "She knew she wouldn't live to see this, but she made sure we would." "Sarah always played the long game," Thomas says. "Even in chess. She'd sacrifice a piece to win 10 moves later." They walk toward the farmhouse, the storm finally beginning to ease. Through the windows, they can see the kitchen light still on, the soup pot still on the stove where they left it. "I should go," Claire says suddenly. "Deal with the press, the company, all of it." Thomas feels his heart clench, but he understands. She has her own life, her own battles. Or, she continues, "We could have dinner first. You could tell me more about Mom, about the farm, about—" She swallows. "About my family." The word fills the space between them, warm as sunlight after a storm. "I'd like that," Thomas says softly. Behind them, the river flows on, its secrets. Finally told, its waters running clear with truth and redemption. The farmhouse kitchen becomes their command center as the night deepens. Claire sits at the table, where Sarah once drew her cryptic diagrams, coordinating with her company's legal team via satellite phone. FBI agents come and go, gathering statements and evidence. Their faces grave as they understand the scope of what Sarah uncovered. "The surveillance program went back decades," Claire explains, showing Thomas the decoded files on her laptop. Rivertech was just the modern face of it. The real operation started during the Cold War. Thomas watches the agents bagging Marcus's phone, remembering how Sarah would sometimes freeze when it rang, how she'd check for surveillance even years after leaving her old life. "Your mother," he says quietly. "She wasn't just hiding from them. She was hunting them, while they thought they were hunting her." Claire pulls up an old photograph. Sarah at a tech conference, years before they met. She's standing in the background watching Marcus Chen give a presentation. She got herself hired at the hospital because it gave her access to their medical records, their private data. A young FBI agent approaches, holding a water-damaged folder from the servers. "Ms. Bennett, we found something you should see." The folder contains birth records, Claire's original birth certificate, but also documents about other children. Dozens of them, all connected to Project Rivergate employees. "They weren't just building backdoors into systems," Claire whispers. "They were building backdoors into families, insurance against whistleblowers." Thomas remembers Sarah's work in the children's ward, how she'd pay special attention to certain families. She was protecting them too, all of them. Lightning flashes outside, illuminating Earl's arrival. The old farmer carries a box of weathered VHS tapes. "Found these in my barn. Sarah asked me to keep them safe, said they were old home movies. Never watched them myself." Claire's hands shake as she connects a portable video player. The screen flickers to life, showing security footage from the hospital. They watch as Sarah systematically works her way through the building over months, gathering evidence, protecting her families, building her case. "Wait," Thomas says, pointing to a figure in the background. "Is that Linda?" Claire confirms. "She wasn't just Mom's friend, she was her co-conspirator." As if summoned, Linda arrives with another box of evidence. "The library was just my cover," she admits. "I worked for the same agency as Sarah before we both realized what we were really part of." The pieces click together in Thomas's mind. The careful friendships, the chosen location of the farm, the years of patient preparation. The river was never just a hiding place, he realizes. It was a weapon. Water and electronics don't mix. If they ever tried to retrieve the servers, they'd destroy their own evidence, Claire finishes. Mom made sure of it. And now, her phone buzzes with news alerts. Around the world, similar facilities are being discovered, their secrets surfacing like bodies in a flood. "Marcus was just the start," Linda says grimly. "There are others, bigger players. They won't take this exposure lying down." As if to confirm her words, Claire's security system pings. Multiple vehicles approaching from different directions. "Government plates," she says, checking the cameras, "but not FBI." Thomas moves to the window, seeing the familiar silhouette of black SUVs against the storm. How many others like Marcus are out there? How high does this go? High enough to be dangerous. Claire's fingers fly over her keyboard, triggering Sarah's final protocols. "Mom left us more than evidence. She left us a blueprint for finishing what she started." Lightning illuminates the approaching vehicles, now stopped by a wall of farm equipment. Earl's people have created a barrier, their trucks and tractors immovable in the mud. Sarah knew, Linda says softly, knew the evidence alone wouldn't be enough. That's why she built this network. Not just servers and data, but people. A community willing to stand against any force that threatened their own. Thunder crashes as Claire stands, Sarah's necklace catching the light. Then let's use it, all of it. Mum spent years building this web. Now it's time to catch everyone who got caught in it. Thomas watches the standoff outside, seeing not just farmers and agents, but the front line of a battle Sarah had planned. For years, a battle she'd trained her daughter to finish. The storm gathers strength, but they're ready for it. Sarah made sure of that. The farmhouse kitchen becomes their command center as the night deepens. Claire sits at the table where Sarah once drew her cryptic diagrams, coordinating with her company's legal team via satellite phone. FBI agents come and go, gathering statements and evidence, their faces grave as they understand the scope of what Sarah uncovered. The surveillance program went back decades, Claire explains, showing Thomas the decoded files on her laptop. Rivertech was just the modern face of it. The real operation started during the Cold War. Thomas watches the agents bagging Marcus's phone, remembering how Sarah would sometimes freeze when it rang, how she'd check for surveillance even years after leaving her old life. Your mother, he says quietly. She wasn't just hiding from them. She was hunting them, while they thought they were hunting her. Claire pulls up an old photograph. Sarah at a tech conference, years before they met. She's standing in the background watching Marcus Chen give a presentation. She got herself hired at the hospital because it gave her access to their medical records, their private data. A young FBI agent approaches, holding a water-damaged folder from the servers. Ms. Bennett, we found something you should see. The folder contains birth records, Claire's original birth certificate, but also documents about other children. Dozens of them, all connected to Project Rivergate employees. They weren't just building backdoors into systems, Claire whispers. They were building backdoors into families, insurance against whistleblowers. Thomas remembers Sarah's work in the children's ward, how she'd pay special attention to certain families. She was protecting them too, all of them. Lightning flashes outside, illuminating Earl's arrival. The old farmer carries a box of weathered VHS tapes. Found these in my barn. Sarah asked me to keep them safe, said they were old home movies. Never watched them myself. Claire's hands shake as she connects a portable video player. The screen flickers to life, showing security footage from the hospital. They watch as Sarah systematically works her way through the building over months, gathering evidence, protecting her families, building her case. Wait, Thomas says, pointing to a figure in the background. Is that Linda? Claire confirms. She wasn't just Mom's friend, she was her co-conspirator. As if summoned, Linda arrives with another box of evidence. The library was just my cover, she admits. I worked for the same agency as Sarah before we both realized what we were really part of. The pieces click together in Thomas's mind. The careful friendships, the chosen location of the farm, the years of patient preparation. The river was never just a hiding place, he realizes. It was a weapon. Water and electronics don't mix. If they ever tried to retrieve the servers, they'd destroy their own evidence, Claire finishes. Mum made sure of it. And now, her phone buzzes with news alerts. Around the world, similar facilities are being discovered, their secrets surfacing like bodies in a flood. Marcus was just the start, Linda says grimly. There are others, bigger players. They won't take this exposure lying down. As if to confirm her words, Claire's security system pings. Multiple vehicles approaching from different directions. Government plates, she says, checking the cameras, but not FBI. Thomas moves to the window, seeing the familiar silhouette of black SUVs against the storm. How many others like Marcus are out there? How high does this go? High enough to be dangerous. Claire's fingers fly over her keyboard, triggering Sarah's final protocols. Mum left us more than evidence. She left us a blueprint for finishing what she started. Lightning illuminates the approaching vehicles, now stopped by a wall of farm equipment. Earl's people have created a barrier, their trucks and tractors immovable in the mud. Sarah knew, Linda says softly, knew the evidence alone wouldn't be enough. That's why she built this network. Not just servers and data, but people. A community willing to stand against any force that threatened their own. Thunder crashes as Claire stands, Sarah's necklace catching the light. Then let's use it, all of it. Mum spent years building this web. Now it's time to catch everyone who got caught in it. Thomas watches the standoff outside, seeing not just farmers and agents, but the front line of a battle Sarah had planned. For years, a battle she'd trained her daughter to finish. The storm gathers strength, but they're ready for it. Sarah made sure of that. The farmhouse kitchen fills with federal agents as Hamilton sits rigid at the table where Sarah once planned her resistance. Claire connects her laptop to a secure network, preparing to release the final cache of evidence. Before you do this, Hamilton says, her composure cracking, you need to understand the consequences. The program wasn't just about surveillance, it was about stability. You mean control, Linda corrects, keeping her weapon trained on the director. Sarah found the prototype designs, the next phase of the project. Thomas watches as Claire brings up technical schematics on her screen. The images make his blood run cold. Neural interfaces, behavioral modification systems, surveillance technology beyond anything the public knows exists. It was never about protecting people, Claire says softly. It was about reshaping them, making them easier to monitor, to influence, to control. Hamilton's laugh is bitter. Your mother had such a narrow view. She saw only the methods, not the necessity. The world is chaos, Claire. We were bringing order. By playing God, Thomas's voice fills with quiet rage. By treating families like lab rats? By ensuring compliance? Hamilton snaps. Your precious Sarah. She was one of our best, until she let sentiment cloud her judgment. Until she let herself get pregnant. Claire's fingers pause over the keyboard. You didn't just watch me all these years, you were waiting, hoping I'd follow Mum's footsteps into programming, into encryption. You have her genius, Hamilton admits, but we hoped you'd have better judgment. I do. Claire smiles. Sarah's smile, fierce and bright. I judged exactly who to trust, who to protect, and who to trap. She executes a command, and screens around the room light up. Not just her laptop, but phones, tablets, even the old TV in the corner. Each shows a different feed, security footage, financial records, private communications. Mom didn't just document your program, Claire explains. She documented everyone involved. Every politician who took bribes, every executive who sold out their users' privacy, every agent who threatened innocent families. Hamilton lunges for her phone, but it's too late. Social media feeds explode with revelations. Encrypted channels light up worldwide. Sarah's dead man's switch hasn't just exposed the program, it's exposed everyone who ever touched it. Impressive, Hamilton says coldly. But you've forgotten something. People like us, we plan for everything, even this. She makes a subtle gesture, and chaos erupts. The power cuts out, plunging the farmhouse into darkness. Emergency vehicles' sirens scream. To life outside, their patterns designed to disorient. But Claire is laughing. Mum planned for that too, she says as backup generators hum to life, not just in the farmhouse but across the valley. Lights bloom in every farmhouse, every barn, every storage shed. A distributed power grid hidden, in plain sight. Farmers helping farmers, keeping the truth alive. Thomas moves to the window, watching Hamilton's agents find themselves surrounded not just by FBI, but by dozens of locals emerging from the rain. Not just farmers now, teachers, shopkeepers, mechanics, everyone Sarah had quietly recruited over the years. Your mother, Hamilton says, something like admiration creeping into her voice. She built her own program, didn't she? Right under our noses. She built a community, Thomas corrects, something you never understood, something stronger than any system of control. Claire's laptop pings one final time. The last protocol, she says. Mom called it Sunrise, a complete map of every facility like this one. Every hidden server farm, every secret research lab, all surfacing now as the world wakes up to the truth. Hamilton stands, dignity intact despite her handcuffs. You realize this changes everything? The whole structure of global surveillance, international security. It changes it back, Linda interrupts, back to something human, something accountable. Outside, the storm begins to ease. Dawn approaches, its first light touching the river that holds so many secrets. But they're secrets no longer. Sarah knew, Claire says, touching her mother's necklace, knew that the real power isn't in controlling information, it's in sharing it, in trusting people with the truth. Thomas watches his daughter, Sarah's final and greatest creation, as she stands in the growing light. In her, he sees not just Sarah's genius, but her heart, her faith in human dignity over systems of control. The sun rises on a changed world, but one that Sarah had seen coming, had planned for, had entrusted to the daughter she gave up everything to protect. The trap wasn't just for Hamilton and her agents. It was for anyone who believed that power could contain truth forever. Dawn breaks over chaos. Hamilton's arrest has triggered desperate countermeasures from her remaining loyalists. Emergency alerts blare across the valley as the dam systems activate without authorization. They're trying to flood the evidence. Claire realizes, fingers flying across her keyboard, override the safety protocols, destroy everything. Thomas watches water levels rising on the monitoring screens. How long? 20 minutes before it breaches. She looks up, Sarah's determination in her eyes. Mom knew they might try this. That's why she built in a back door to the dam controls. Linda bursts in, soaked from the rain. We've got company. Military helicopters, 10 minutes out. Someone's called in the big guns. Through the window, Thomas sees the community mobilizing, farmers in trucks, heading to evacuate low-lying areas, others moving to protect crucial equipment. A lifetime of preparing for floods, making them ready for this moment. They think they're destroying evidence, Claire says, studying Sarah's old blueprints. But they don't understand. Mum didn't just hide her proof in servers, she hid it in people, in relationships, in trust. Her phone lights up with messages from around the world. Sarah's revelations spreading like ripples in a pond, each person touched by the program now coming forward with their own piece of the truth. The dam controls are locked down, she continues, but I can access Mom's emergency protocols. She left us a choice. Claire looks at Thomas. We can stop the flood, or we can use it. Thomas remembers Sarah's last morning, how she'd kissed him and said sometimes you have to let go to hold on to what matters. What would your mother do? Claire's smile is fierce. She'd make the water work for her. Her fingers dance across the keys, implementing Sarah's final protocol. Warning sirens change their tone as she takes control of the dam systems. They wanted to flood the valley? She pulls up a detailed map. Fine, but we choose where the water goes. Outside, the community responds with practiced efficiency. Trucks and tractors move to high ground, forming new barriers. Linda coordinates with local emergency services, directing resources where they're needed. 5 minutes to chopper arrival, she reports. Claire nods, never taking her eyes off the screens. Perfect timing. Mom's protocol needs 3 minutes to execute. Then, the dam groans as water begins flowing through carefully chosen release points. Not a destructive flood, but a controlled release. The river rises, following channels Sarah had mapped years ago. Look, Thomas points to the surveillance feeds. Water surrounds the remaining government vehicles, cutting off their escape routes. More importantly, it flows towards specific points around the valley. Secondary servers, Claire explains, ones they thought were secret. Mum found them all, mapped them, and now the water reaches the first hidden facility. Instead of destroying evidence, it reveals it. Underground bunkers forced open, secret access points exposed, each one containing more proof of the program's true scope. Military helicopters appear on the horizon just as the last pieces surface. Their spotlights sweep the valley, revealing not destruction, but revelation. This was never about destroying evidence, Claire says softly. Mom knew they'd try to bury the truth in a flood, so she designed a way to make the flood expose it instead. Thomas watches the choppers land, their occupants emerging to find themselves not in a disaster zone, but in the middle of a carefully orchestrated exposure. FBI agents are already documenting everything the water has revealed. Your mother, Linda says, pride in her voice. She didn't just plan for their attacks, she planned for their counterattacks, their desperate moves, their last resorts. Claire's phone keeps lighting up with notifications. The truth spreading faster than any. Flood, carried by the very networks the program had tried to control. They thought water would destroy digital evidence, she says. They never understood. Mom built something bigger than servers and data. She built hope, Thomas finishes. She built hope. The sun breaks through the storm clouds, reflecting. Off the risen waters, in their depths, decades of secrets lie exposed to the light. But above them, something stronger shines, a community united, a truth revealed, a legacy protected. Claire stands at the window, Sarah's necklace catching the dawn light. In its reflection, Thomas sees not just his wife's last gift to their daughter, but her gift to the world, proof that even the deepest secrets can't stay buried when people stand together. The waters rise, but they rise with purpose, with truth. With the power Sarah always knew they had, not to destroy, but to cleanse, to reveal, to make new. As morning fully breaks over the valley, the water begins to recede, leaving behind more than just exposed secrets. FBI evidence teams swarm the revealed facilities, while local news crews capture everything. But Claire's attention is fixed on something else, a glint of metal revealed by the falling water near the river's edge. There, she points, already moving. That's not a server. Thomas follows her down the muddy bank. What they find stops them both. A waterproof case, chained to a concrete anchor. The lock is a simple combination. Sarah's birthday, then Claire's. Inside lies a single USB drive and a handwritten letter, the paper still crisp in its sealed container. Claire's hands shake as she unfolds it. My dearest daughter, she reads, her voice catching. If you're reading this, then everything has happened as I hoped. The truth has surfaced, and you found your way home, to your father, to our community, to the legacy I always knew you'd complete. Thomas wraps an arm around her shoulders as she continues. The drive contains my final gift, not just evidence, but understanding. The full story of why I had to leave you, why I chose this place. This life, these people to protect you. But more importantly, it contains proof of something they never understood, that humanity's greatest strength isn't in our secrets, but in our connections. Linda joins them, her expression soft as she listens to her old friend's words. They built a system to control people through isolation, through fear, through the threat of losing what they loved. I built something different. A network of trust, of community, of people who choose to stand together. You've seen its power now. You've felt how it's stronger than any surveillance system, any algorithm of control. Claire's voice grows stronger as she reads on. The drive also contains something personal. Every moment I could capture of your early days, every dream I had for your future, every piece of myself I hoped would find its way to you. I had to give you up to keep you safe. But I never stopped, planning for the day you'd understand why. FBI agents approach with questions, but Linda waves them back, protecting this moment. Thomas, my love, my anchor, my partner in building this safe harbor, I know you'll have helped our daughter find her way. The pain of my leaving must have seemed senseless, but now you know. Every choice, every secret, every quiet preparation was for this moment. For the truth to rise, for our family to be whole again, for justice to finally surface. Thomas doesn't try to stop his tears as Claire reads the final paragraphs. To the community that became my family, that protected my secrets and will now protect my legacy, thank you. You proved what I always believed, that ordinary people standing together are stronger than any system of control. And Claire, my brilliant girl, you've done more than expose their lies. You've proven that truth, like water, finds its way past every barrier. That love, like the river, can't be contained or controlled. That family, like our community, grows stronger through every storm. I leave you with the knowledge that you've not just finished what I started, you've built something better. A world where secrets can't strangle hope, where communities can't be turned against themselves, where daughters can find their way home. All my love, all my hope, all my faith in what you'll build next, Mom. The USB drive glows softly as Claire connects it to her laptop. Thousands of files appear, not just evidence and explanations, but personal moments. Videos of Sarah holding newborn Claire, of her first steps, of quiet moments, stolen before the separation. She never gave up, Linda says softly. Not on justice, not on family, not on hope. Around them, the community continues its work. Farmers help federal agents access hidden areas. Local police coordinate with FBI teams. The network Sarah built, moving with the organic efficiency of people who trust each other, who choose to stand together. She was right, Claire says, watching it all. About everything. About what really makes us strong. Thomas looks at his daughter, at Sarah's daughter, seeing in her face the same quiet determination that had drawn him to her mother. The same faith in people over systems, in truth over power. She's still right, he says softly, still showing us the way. The morning sun catches Sarah's necklace as Claire stands, turning to face the next phase of their work. In its gleam, Thomas sees not just the past surfacing, but the future taking shape. Bright, clear, and free of shadows. 1 month later, the farmhouse kitchen hosts a different kind of gathering. Claire sits at the head of the table, her mother's place, while community leaders and tech executives fill the remaining seats. Outside, construction crews work on the new data center that will replace the hidden servers, its foundations built on transparency instead of secrets. The transition plan is simple, Claire explains, displaying blueprints on the wall screen. We're converting the valley into an open-source technology hub. Every patent, every innovation developed here will be public domain. Earl raises his hand. What about the farms? Protected forever, Claire assures him. Mom's final gift included trust documents. The agricultural land can never be developed. Instead, we're integrating sustainable farming with green technology. The river will power it all, just like she planned. Thomas watches from the doorway, seeing Sarah's vision taking shape. The farm that had seemed like a hiding place was always meant to be a launching pad. Linda enters, carrying fresh files. First round of prosecutions is complete. Hamilton and her top lieutenants took plea deals. They're testifying against the whole network. And the families? Thomas asks. The other children they used as leverage? All notified, Claire says, softly. Support systems in place. Mum's protocols included everything they'd need to reconnect, to heal, to understand their own stories. The meeting continues, but Thomas steps outside. The autumn air carries the scent of fresh earth and new beginnings. Construction crews are converting the old barn into a community center, while solar panels gleam on every roof in sight. Claire finds him there later, as sunset paints the sky in familiar colors. The new deed came through today, she says, holding out a folder. The whole valley restructured as a cooperative trust. Farmers retain their land rights, but now they're also shareholders in the tech center. Thomas opens it, seeing Sarah's influence in every careful clause. She really did think of everything. Not everything, Claire smiles. She left us room to innovate, to build something she couldn't imagine. She gestures to where young tech workers chat with agricultural experts, sharing ideas across worlds. Sarah hoped would unite. A familiar truck pulls up. Deputy Stevens, now working with the FBI task force dedicated to dismantling similar programs worldwide. Got something you should see, he calls out, waving a tablet. Another facility surfaced. In Europe, Using Sarah's detection protocols, just like she predicted, Claire takes the tablet, her free hand touching her mother's necklace. They're all coming to light now, every secret system, every hidden network, because of her, Thomas says quietly. Because she chose to trust people over power. The construction foreman approaches with questions about the next phase. Claire handles it with Sarah's easy grace, bridging practical needs with innovative solutions. The daughter has become more than the mother hoped, not just completing her work, but expanding it. Inside, the meeting wraps up. Farmers and tech experts leave together, continuing discussions about integrating AI with crop management, using blockchain for transparent food supply chains, applying privacy protection to agricultural data. You know what Mom wrote in her earliest notes? Claire says, showing Thomas a scanned page. The future isn't about choosing between progress and preservation. It's about finding ways to let them strengthen each other. The sun sets behind them as they watch their community, Sarah's community, transform her vision into reality. The river flows on, no longer hiding secrets but powering innovation. The farms flourish, their ancient wisdom now complementing cutting-edge technology. She would have loved this, Thomas says, seeing Sarah in every detail of the emerging future. She did love it, Claire corrects gently. She loved it enough to spend years planning it, protecting it, preparing us to build it. The first stars appear as lights come on in the new buildings. Each one represents a piece of Sarah's legacy. Transparency defeating secrecy, community overcoming control, love outlasting loss. Thomas hugs his daughter, feeling Sarah's presence in the moment, not as a ghost of grief, but as a foundation of hope. The mother who gave up everything to protect the future, the wife who hid her greatest plans in plain sight, the visionary who saw past the darkness to the dawn they're now building. Together they turn toward the farmhouse, not just a home now, but a beacon, a place where Sarah's dreams of truth and transformation are finally fully surfacing. 1 year later, spring blooms in the valley. The farmhouse kitchen still serves as the heart of operations, but now it hosts a weekly tradition. Sunday dinners where farmers and programmers break bread together, sharing ideas as freely as they share Sarah's vegetable soup. Claire ladles out bowls while Thomas slices the fresh-baked bread. Through the window, they can see the transformed landscape. Solar arrays gleaming beside flowering orchards, modern buildings harmoniously nestled among historic barns, the river flowing past it all. First graduating class completed their training. Today, Linda announces, accepting a bowl. She now runs the educational program, teaching both cybersecurity and sustainable agriculture. Every one of them hired locally. Sarah's dream of keeping young people in the community while bringing in new ideas. It's really happening. Earl enters carrying his signature apple pie. Wait till you hear the latest yields. The AI irrigation system Claire developed increased production by 40% while cutting water usage in half. Thomas watches his daughter accept the praise with her mother's quiet grace. She's made the farmhouse her home now, converting the old office into a modern command center while keeping the kitchen exactly as Sarah left it. The European facilities are all public now, Claire updates them. Hamilton's testimony broke the blast resistance. But more importantly, their communities are following our model, farms and tech hubs growing together, protecting each other. A young programmer rushes in, tablet in hand. Ms. Bennett, the new privacy protocol just passed its final test. The one based on your mother's original work? Claire smiles. Sarah's law, that's what they're calling it now. Making privacy a human right, not a commodity. The dinner table fills with their extended family, farmers, programmers, locals, and newcomers, all part of the network Sarah envisioned, where innovation serves community instead of controlling it. Thomas slips away to the porch, overwhelmed for a moment by memories. A year ago, he was losing this farm. Now it's transformed into something beyond even Sarah's dreams, while still keeping its soul. He finds Claire's notepad on the porch swing. open to her latest project. She's expanded Sarah's original vision, not just protecting privacy, but using technology to strengthen human connections. Every innovation rooted in trust, in community, in the values Sarah died protecting. Penny, for your thoughts? Claire joins him, carrying 2 bowls of soup. Just thinking about cycles, he says. How things come around. Your mother chose this place to hide, but she turned it into something worth revealing. Claire nods. I found more of her early notes yesterday, even before she met you. She wrote about wanting to build a future where secrets protect people instead of controlling them. She just needed the right place, the right people, to make it real. Inside, laughter rings out as Earl tells stories about Sarah's early days on the farm, her city girl mistakes that became beloved legends. The community holds her memory not in grief, but in joy, in continuation. The river's running high, Thomas observes. Spring thaw. Nature's own transparency protocol. Claire smiles, bringing everything to the surface. A car pulls up. Deputy Stevens, now promoted to leading the regional cybersecurity task force. He joins them on the porch, his former antagonism replaced by deep respect. International Oversight Committee approved the last protocols, he reports. Privacy protection is going global, with this valley as the model. Sarah's model. The sunset paints the scene in familiar colors. Golden light on new buildings, long shadows from old trees, the river catching fire with remembered glory. In every detail, Thomas sees his wife's vision fulfilled and expanded. Claire touches her mother's necklace, no longer a hidden key but a proud symbol. She knew, didn't she, that it would all come together like this? She knew the ingredients, Thomas says. The land, the community, the river, the trust. She just needed time to let them blend, like her soup recipe. They rejoin the dinner table, where conversation flows as naturally as the river outside. Farmers discuss coding boot camps while programmers debate crop rotation. Sarah's 2 worlds, finally and forever merged. The future she protected has become the present they're building, stronger and brighter than even she might have imagined. On the 5th anniversary of Sarah's death, the valley gathers at the river's edge. The morning sun catches the new memorial they've built, not a somber stone, but a living tribute. A garden where the old server facility once hid, its paths lined with Sarah's favorite flowers. At its center, a simple plaque reads, "Truth rises like water." Claire stands between the garden and the river, wearing a new necklace that echoes her mother's design. The original rests in a museum now, alongside the evidence that changed the world. This new one she designed herself, its pattern encoding not secrets, but possibilities. Mum chose this spot carefully, she tells the gathered community. Not just for what it could hide, but for what it could reveal. About strength in connection, about trust in community, about love that surfaces against all odds. Thomas joins her, seeing Sarah everywhere. In the thriving farms, in the innovative technology center, in the daughter who's become exactly what her mother hoped, but mostly in the way the community has grown stronger together, proving that her faith in human connection was never misplaced. Linda rises to share stories about Sarah's early days, about the friend who became a legend. Earl adds tales of her learning to farm, the city girl who came to love the land so fiercely she gave her life to protect it. Even Deputy Stevens speaks, honoring the woman whose vision transformed not just a valley, but his understanding of true security. As the sun reaches its peak, Claire unveils her latest project, a scholarship program for children affected by the old regime. Mum protected me by sending me away, she explains. Now we can protect others by bringing them home, by giving them community, purpose, understanding. The river flows past, its waters clear and purposeful. No more hidden servers, no more buried secrets. Just the eternal rhythm of nature supporting innovation, of old wisdom guiding new growth. Thomas takes Claire's hand as they walk through Sarah's garden. She'd be proud, he says softly, not just of what you've built, but of who you've become. Who we've all become, Claire corrects, watching the community mingle. Farmers and programmers, locals and newcomers, all part of Sarah's legacy. The future spreads before them like the valley itself, open, fertile, full of promise. Sarah's dream of transparency and trust has taken root, growing into something more beautiful than even she might have imagined. As evening falls, the memorial lights glow softly, powered by the river itself. Claire touches her new necklace, its pattern catching the light like hope made tangible. Ready to head home? Thomas asks. Claire looks around, at the thriving valley, the united community, the clear flowing river that brought her back to where she belonged. I am home, she says simply. We all are. Above them, stars emerge like countless points of light, each one a reminder that truth, like water, like love, always finds its way to the surface.